Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hafizuddin bin Ibrahim and I'm your today's moderator. So, our topic for today is about the just-in-time system, or as known as JIT system, that was applied in a certain company. For your information, we have invited several professional panels which include consulting partners, operation managers from their company and operation manager from Toyota company. Let me introduce them one by one. First, this is Atiqah Binti Ghazali, and she is consulting partner at AFH Consultancy Service.
Hi everyone, thank you for inviting me into this discussion.
Next is Mr. Ahmad Farid bin Halimi, and he is the operation manager from their company.
Hello, thank you Mr. Tunku for inviting me.
Our last panel is Miss Amirah binti Rosmahadi, and she is the operation manager from Toyota company.
Hello there, I'm so excited to be here today.
Without wasting our time, let us start with our first point for our discussion today regarding the JIT system. According to the CIMA, the JIT system is a system whose objective is to produce or procure product or component as that are required by the customer or for use rather than inventory. An inventory strategy company apply to increase efficiency and decrease waste by reserving goods only as they are needed in the production process, thereby reducing inventory costs. Okay, for the first question, I would like to ask Ms. Atiqah, regarding your understanding, can you share with us about the general knowledge of the JIT system?
From my understanding, the JIT system is a manufacturing workflow methodology aimed at reducing flow times and costs within production system and the distribution of materials. If I'm not mistaken, Toyota and Dell companies frequently apply the JIT system in their day-to-day operations. Is it true, Ms. Amirah and Mr. Farid?
Yes, that is correct. My company used the JIT system in our day-to-day operations.
Yes, the same goes to my company as well.
Hope all the listeners get the general view for the meaning of the JIT system. Okay, now this question is for Mr. Farid. So, Mr. Farid, from your knowledge and experience, what is the objective of the JIT system?
From my knowledge, the first objective of JIT is no inventory are stored. One of the goals of the just-in-time system is to reduce or eliminate inventory holding. In the traditional manufacturing production system, raw material are obtained, items or goods are manufactured and store are established. This concept is costly because it involves storing not just raw material but also finished good. Furthermore, the production process is extremely low because the corporation may not be looking for new ways to optimize the process. As a result, JIT attempt to address this issue only if there are consumer order than there are the production process. The second objective, which is no material is purchased. If there are no production, no material will be purchased when adopting JIT. Unlike in the past, raw material are purchased based on the demand and production prediction. The old system had little networking with the suppliers, and most of the raw material are need over the years were purchased in advance, which require a lot of money and room to store and care for the raw material. The third objective is to improve the production system. Another main objective of just-in-time production system is to assist the company in improving the production process. The Dell will examine indeed how JIT can assist in the following areas.
Now I get a clear vision on the objective of JIT. Okay, so let's proceed to the next question. This question is for Miss Amirah. So, Miss Amirah, can you share with us the characteristic of the JIT system?
Sure, JIT system have a range of characteristics. Flexible workforce is one of the characteristics. The JIT system relies on orders, hence the workforce will vary according to production needs. Apart from that, the characteristic is the pull method of material flow. It refers to a system in which the item's production is activated by client demand. Stock will be delivered only once the next order is placed. JIT also maintains good quality at the source by having workers act as their own quality inspectors. As a result, it constantly maintains excellent quality by avoiding scrap and rework. Last but not least, it has strong supplier relationships. The JIT system maintains a close and dependable relationship with suppliers to ensure continuous supply of high quality supplies.
How about the story of JIT system? As far as I know, Toyota is one of the earliest company that applied the JIT system. As the operation manager of Toyota, can you explain us with the history?
Yes, that's true. JIT begins after World War II. It was when Japanese facing some problems to continue the business. They have lack of cash where make Japanese difficult in industries to finance and prepare and large inventories production. Second effect of World War II is there are no free lots to expand their factory. They struggle to have a space to build big factory for them to install inventories. Third effect is scarcity of resources, where Japanese have problem in natural resources to build their own product. Then, high unemployment rate, where Japanese face it after World War II that causes level efficiency method were not obvious or pathway to the industrial success. So, there is Japanese man named Taichi Ono from the Toyota company. Mr. Ono said that it was the structure of the US supermarkets that gave him the idea of incorporating this automatic nervous system function into production activities. Specifically, the idea he referred to be that customers purchase products when they needed them and for the amount that they needed. In response, the supermarkets would replenish these products only for that amount in small batches. Around 1950 to 1960s, people start implemented JIT. Around 1970s, people more realized to implement it more in JIT system with their benefits. The concept of JIT system was popularized by the productivity of Japanese industry in the early 1970s within the Toyota manufacturing plants that would meet consumer demands with minimum delays using an approach focused on people, plants and systems. The prime goal of JIT is for zero inventories across the organization and its supply chain. This completely utilizes the organizational capabilities and maximize ROI. The system was so successful in Japan, it was copied by many US companies, notably Hewlett-Packard. Successfully implementation is dependent on creating a business-wide initiative, encouraging staff engagement, and formulating a policy and strategy that can be mobilized.
Wow, that was a really interesting story. I'm sure now all of us know how the JIT system exists. Okay, let's proceed to the next question. This is question for Mr. Farid. Can you describe the cycle of JIT?
The cycle starts with a customer placing an order with the manufacturer. When the manufacturer receives the order, he or she places an order with one of their suppliers. The supplier receives the order and then supply the material required by the manufacturer to fulfill the customer order. The manufacturer then receives the raw material, assemble them and sell them to the customer. As a result, the JIT inventory system reduces inventory while increasing efficiency. JIT production system reduces inventory cost by allowing manufacturer to receive material and parts as needed for production rather than paying storage fee. If an order is cancelled or not fulfilled, manufacturers are not left with unsold inventory. The manufacturer follows the JIT model, which means that all material and production components are purchased and supplied just before the start of the assembly process. The JIT system is an essential component of the lean production system, which helps to reduce cost and free up the financial resource used in the traditional production system for excess inventory management. They were able to reduce the production cycle by implementing the JIT model, which now takes only 4 hours.
Sorry to interrupt, I would like to add on how it works in Toyota. The JIT inventory system in car manufacturers normally operates with low inventory levels but heavily relies on its supply chain to deliver the parts it requires to build cars on as needed basis. Consequently, the manufacturer orders the parts required to assemble the vehicles only after an order is received.
Thank you to Miss Amirah. Next question for Miss Atiqah. We would like to know the general knowledge for advantages when applying the JIT system in the company.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Tengku. Okay, for the advantage when applying the JIT system, the company only need a small space in saving their goods. So you do not need as much warehouse or storage space to keep goods if you have a faster stock turnover. This will decrease the quantity of storage that company needs to rent or buy. You can free up the finance for other aspects of the company. Next, the company can reduce the amount of waste goods. Faster stock turnover reduce waste by preventing product from becoming damaged or obsolete while in a storage. This will save money by avoiding unnecessary stock purchase and decreasing the need to replace old stock. Lastly, JIT inventory management is perfect for small business that don't have the resource to buy large quantity of product all at once. By maintaining a good cash flow can be as simple as ordering stock as needed.
Oh, there are a lot of advantages when applying the JIT system in the company, and we can see that this system is suitable to be applied either for big company and smaller company. As we all know, every system has its own disadvantages. So, Ms. Atiqah, can you tell us about the disadvantages when applying this system?
Yes, it is true, Mr. Tengku. Every system that made by human has their own advantage and disadvantage because all of the solutions have their own risk. So for the disadvantage, since you do not have a lot of inventory, it is critical that you have the right procedure in place to ensure that stock is available quickly. You will need a good relationship with your supplier to do this. You may need to negotiate an exclusive agreement with supplier that say that goods must be delivered within a specific time range that your firm has been prioritized. You become highly dependent on the consistency of your supply chain when you use GIT. What happens if your supplier fails to meet your needs or goes out of business? It is possible to receive the product fast from another resource, so this will be the risk for your company to face. Next, the company will lack control over the time frame. When you rely on suppliers to deliver on time for each order, you run the risk of delaying the delivery of items to your customer. If you fail to meet your client's expectations, they might take their business somewhere, which could have a significant impact on your company if this happens frequently. So lastly, a company must analyze their sales trends and fluctuation in great detail when using GIT inventory management. Most business have a seasonal sales period, which means that certain product will require more stock at certain times of the year due to increased demand. As a result, you must acquire this when planning inventory levels, ensuring that suppliers can satisfy varying volume requirement at different periods.
It's a great explanation from Miss Atiqah about the advantages. Now, we all know the advantages and disadvantages of GIT system. Next, we would like to please Miss Amirah to share the application and strategy of GIT in Toyota.
Toyota began using GIT inventory management in the 1970s and spent over 15 years perfecting the system. Toyota only puts out orders for production parts when it receives new customer orders. Toyota and GIT manufacturing will succeed as long as the company maintains a consistent production rate with high quality workmanship and no machine breakdowns at the plant that could stall production. Additionally, it needs dependable suppliers who can consistently deliver parts on time and the ability to efficiently assemble machines that put together its vehicles.
Oh, that's a long time for Toyota to really get into the how GIT system works based on what Miss Amirah explained to us. As I know from my knowledge, there are a few obstacles to apply the GIT system. First is the reduction in the safety stock where because of the advantages of extra resources, classical industrial technique encourage the concept of safety stock. The approach is to integrate more data processing in implementing planning activity. Second, improper method of production are due to the improper manufacture practice that have been followed in the traditional manufacturing mechanism. Third, is additional training, planning and equipment. It needs adequate training for staff and wise this is more in depth and costly than it may have been before. Lastly, less control of the supply chain is one of the key advantages of being an SME is that you can be more flexible and agile. But GIT supply can inhibit this is you not carefully in effect. GIT supply can limit your potential opportunity to grow your business. So, Mr. Farid and Ms. Amirah, what are the obstacles to applying the GIT system in your company?
The obstacle that they face is that to apply the GIT system require an excessive amount of cash to implement. They must spend a lot of money in order to fully utilize the GIT system. We had no idea how many customers purchase our product. All we need to do was to ensure that our product will fully complete before the customer do that. This is going to cost a lot of money. The next obstacle is the flow of inventories. A GIT system has resulted in inventory flow inconsistency. This means that the supply chain has failed to meet the demand in several instances. Miss Amirah, how about in Toyota?
Of course, we face some obstacles to apply GIT in Toyota. As mentioned by Mr. Tengku, we also need additional training and planning equipment. When applying for a GIT, it requires much more frequent stock checking. It may also entail the use of more sophisticated equipment and computer software. Therefore, we have adequate training for staff even though this is more in-depth and costly than it may have been before.
That's how Dell and Toyota are facing obstacles in applying this GIT system. Now, I would like to request Miss Atiqah to explain how the JIT system works to improve the industry, and can you explain to me with some example?
The JIT inventory system reduce the inventory and increase the productivity. JIT production system reduce inventory cost by allowing manufacturer to receive materials and parts as needed for production rather than paying for storage. Manufacturers are also not left with unwanted inventory if an order is cancelled or not fulfilled. For example, a company that markets office furniture but do not manufacture it, and it may order for the furniture from manufacturer only when a customer makes an order. So the manufacturer deliver it directly to the customer, and the retail has saved the cost of storing inventory.
Okay, now let's move to the next point, which is the impact of implementing JIT on the work environment. So Mr. Farid, can you give some impact of implementing JIT on the work environment?
In general, one of the impact of implementing JIT on the work environment is the performance evaluation. A worker cannot produce another unit under the JIT until the worker at the next station signal that another unit is required. Each worker in the group will have produced the same output at the end of a shift. The output of the entire group rather than the individual must then be used to evaluate performance. Furthermore, group output is affected by the level of customer demand. Employees were previously evaluated based on their ability to produce the standard output for their specific task, with bonus award to those who exceed the standard. Work standards like this are frequently cited as a major barrier to implement JIT. Workers who excel at the meeting individual production goal receive high rating in a batch processing system but may not receive high rating in a JIT system that emphasize contribution to the group production output. Okay, the next impact will affect group interaction. Under JIT, each worker is dependable on the preceding section for a constant supply of unit to work on, but cannot begin work on a unit until the person at the next station decide that another unit is required. Then, rather than acting as an individual, all workers must act as a team. In our research company, how well each person work within his or her group become an important factor in performance evaluation. Prior to JIT, performance evaluation were primarily based on the technical skill. Are you agree with that, Miss Atiqah?
I agree with Mr. Farid, but I have known some more impacts of implementing JIT on the work environment. First, will impact on the job flexibility is because the goal of JIT is to produce according to demand rather than to achieve smooth production runs. Each worker must be cross-trained to perform multiple tasks so that they can fill in as needed. JIT performance evaluation are based in part on a worker's ability to accept a variety of tasks. A worker's primary responsibility on a typical batch method production line is to achieve a high output on a single task. The other one will affected is the mode of supervision. With JIT, work groups are expected to solve some of their own problems by giving workers more power. As a result, supervisor must give up some control, accepting group decision making as difficult for the supervisor in our study company who had an authoritative management style. Also, because eliminating inventories forced people to stop producing if they got ahead of current demand, supervisors said they spent a lot more time cross-training employees to perform a variety of tasks and trying to coordinate the work of different groups.
Okay, can you, Ms. Atiqah, share with us and what are the common critical success factors in implementing the JIT system?
A few most common critical success factors when implementing the JIT system in the company. The top and foremost is the role of top management. They need to motivate employees in order to make this process follow the flow that is already made by the company. Top management also needs to make a good relationship with the employees so that it will be more easier for them to guide the employee in implementing the JIT system in the company. Not to forget, the duties of employee is to involvement and commitment are very important to make a successful process, because as an employee, they need to follow all the instructions given by the top management and perform their tasks according to the time given. Besides, the good relationship with the supplier also can be a factor of critical success to the business, because to make sure that their product is always ready to supply to their client. If they breach the contract that was already made between the suppliers and the company, JIT cannot be successful because the problem happened and the good will not be supplied following the schedule that was already stated by the company. I think Ms. Amirah and Mr. Farid might be able to tell us about any critical success factor in their company.
Let me start first. Dell critical success factor is dependable supplier who can meet Dell's restricted line time criteria. Following that, a streamlined system that allow Dell to submit component requirements so that they arrive on time to meet Dell lead time. Finally, supplier desire to keep inventory on hand allow Dell to avoid making this commitment.
In Toyota manufacturing, Toyota's critical success factor is due to the small amount of raw materials inventories that must be stored at each node in the manufacturing process in order to manufacture any product. When these components wear out, they are replaced. Aside from that, forecasting accuracy is critical for stocking the appropriate amount of raw materials.
Please excuse me, but what is the true impact of implementing the JIT system in your company? Can we start with the Toyota first?
For Toyota, our team discovered that implementing JIT will reduce the inventory by 70% as well as lower labor expenses and space requirements. In addition, we have improved the technique even more in 2017. We were able to reduce suppliers' inventory space for some parts by 90% in a trial run at a subsidiary's plant in Iwate, Japan.
For Dell, the management realized that this would be an excellent opportunity for the business process before any other competitor firm did, and therefore have cut their inventories from having 20 to 25 days of inventory to having no warehouse and no more than 2 hours of inventory in its factory.
It was amazing sharing today from all our panel. What we have got from this sharing is JIT is a philosophy which purpose to achieve the maximum and with minimum impact. This can be achieved only if all the parties involved in the entire ecosystem of supply chain will be committed to achieve this and work cohesively with a great amount of coordination. JIT will need very carefully planning and timely communication in the chain. The whole organization must be committed to this philosophy. So thank you to all my panel, Mr. Farid, Mr. Amirah and Mr. Atiqah for sharing knowledge with us, and we hope all of you will understand more with our sharing today. Remember that just-in-time is one of the most promising and time-tested business philosophy which will gain more extensive attention in the day to come. Thank you everyone and see you again next time. Bye bye.